What's going on, Whisper Nation? And thank you for joining us here on the Black Friday special of the news and notes from around the NFL episode. It is November 26th, one day after Thanksgiving. Hope you had a great holiday. We're going to be jumping into all of the news and notes, helping you get your lineup set for this Sunday, as well as going over the games from Thursday and answering all of your questions with Big Travie, Johnny Game Time Hicks, and myself. Let's bring the whole team together. Let's do it.
Whoa, what's up?
What's going on, boys? Good to see you. Happy day after Thanksgiving. Just quick, how was your Thanksgiving, Travis?
I was good, man. It was a little bit smaller. We've typically done big Friendsgivings in the past out here in LA. Some things were moving around this year, moving and shaking. So we did a little bit of a smaller one, missed the bigger one, but still cherished what we got to do yesterday. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving as well. I'm still got a little bit of that turkey coma, but things are good, man.
Very good, very good. Johnny, how about you? How was you and Jade and the family's Thanksgiving yesterday?
It was good. Hit up a couple of Thanksgivings. Not too bad. Not too bad. I got way too much food. Took too many naps yesterday, but that's what happened
on Thanksgiving.
I know, dude.
Sounds like you did it right, man. Sounds like you did it right.
I mean, I did to a point of like that's a great day, but I didn't get to watch as much football as I would like because of the naps and the traveling. So you take the good with the bad. It happens.
No, you just missed a ton of penalties, man. It's pretty bad.
Oh man, that's what I heard. That's what probably put me to sleep in the first place.
Well, we'll jump into some of those takes here in just a second, but I want to say a big happy Thanksgiving and a welcome to everybody here in Whisper Nation. We got Slim Reaper jumping in. Z, what's up? Roll call. I like that. Coming on in here. So it's great to have you with us, Whisper Nation. Be sure to get us all of your questions as they're coming in when they are relevant to the topic we're discussing, working through the news and notes from all the teams in the NFL. We'll try to plug it in right then. But otherwise, we are going to get to all of the questions to help you set up your lineups, your trades, whatever it might be. What's your favorite type of post-Thanksgiving leftover course? We'll make sure to get to all of those questions by the end of the episode. Have faith on that. But let's go ahead, and I wanted to get started on just initial takes, just in general from the Thursday night game. Maybe, Travi, kick it over to you for just your larger macro view take here from yesterday's trifecta.
Some major injury situations that I think actually we got a little bit of good news out of. So obviously Deandre Swift in the first game, and we'll get into that. We had Darren Waller in the second game, kind of come away from that. And then obviously the running backs for New Orleans both didn't make it into the game for that. So injuries, obviously, as they do, dictated a little bit of the story for me out of Thanksgiving. But I think overall it was we got some things shaken out in the Cowboys offense that'll be interesting to look at. I think that's one of the bigger takeaways. We've got Ezekiel Elliott with a knee injury, Tony Pollard looking like the better back. We've said that for a long time, I think, trying to get that happening, and we'll see what happens down the stretch with that. So just some things that are unfolding. We've got 10 days to figure out people's status, like Darren Waller as we come around the 10-day, and Zeke and his knee, and Deandre Swift with the shoulder too. So
let's go ahead and jump into that game a little bit more. We had the Las Vegas Raiders visiting the Dallas Cowboys. Wonderful Las Vegas. That's actually where I am at right now in Clark County, Nevada, taking the show over here on the road. Drove by Allegiant Stadium a few times. It's always just such a cool stadium.
It's a cool stadium.
Yeah, it does look great.
Yeah, it's a really impressive one. SoFi right there too. We've been blessed on the West Coast or the Southwest region with some really good stadiums as of late. But taking a look at this game, starting with the home team in the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott with a decent day there, 375 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. You like that. Then going to the running backs, where Travis had alluded to, with Tony Pollard out carrying Ezekiel Elliott, 10 carries to 9, 36 carries there for the prior 25 for the latter and Ezekiel Elliott. And taking a look over at the receiving side, we had Michael Gallup show up. That was a fun piece to see pop for a little bit. And I guess I want to know, along with Michael Gallup's 5 receptions for 106 yards, Dalton Schultz got in the end zone again, but just 46 yards, so kind of hanging around in that same back end tight end 1 category with some upside. But looking at specifically the wide receivers over here, Johnny, Michael Gallup came up and came out. Do you think that this is something to keep monitoring moving forward, or how are you chopping up the pass catchers in Dallas with everything that happened yesterday?
I mean, I still think that Gallup should be rostered. Again, CeeDee Lamb and both Amari Cooper, both out of this game. So that moved Gallup over to that Amari Cooper role. and we saw him, do a decent job with it, and end up having a decent fantasy day, right? Getting over 100 yards. You would have wished he would have gotten the end zone, but he didn't, and so you take the good with the bad. But I'm not saying that Gallup is going to significantly move up my rankings or anything rest of season because of this. Again, it was just him taking advantage of the matchup and the situation. And so that's kind of where I'm seeing this going forward.
All right. I appreciate that. On the other side of the ball, Travis, we look at the Raiders breaking down after nice win for them in overtime there, 36-33, coming out on top on Thanksgiving Day. Derek Carr, 373 yards, just one touchdown, though, 24 for 39. We had Josh Jacobs get a ton of carries of 22, 87 yards, not horrible, and had a touchdown there to really make the day. Kenyon Drake, I was wondering if he was going to get a little bit more involved. Not really. They're just 7 carries for 25 yards, so it is the Josh Jacobs show, it looks like, there in the backfield. And on the receiving side, man, Hunter Renfro is going to make me change the way that I just talk about this dude. He's just forcing his way into that category. 8 receptions, 134 yards, 16-point average on the day. That's really nice. And you see this team still figuring it out after the Henry Ruggs vacation there. And it's Travi, is Hunter Renfro somebody that needs to be paid more attention to as we move forward? Also worth noting, Deshaun Jackson, welcome to Las Vegas, had 3 catches for 102 yards, 34 yards on average. We know that he's able to do this. Zay Jones involved there, 5 catches, 59 yards. And then Darren Waller, just 2 catches, 33 yards, 16.5 per. So Travi, how are you kind of looking at this offense now? We know Josh Jacobs in the run game, but from the passing side of it, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfro, anybody else that we should be shifting how we talk about them?
I feel like the Renfro and Waller are when Waller's in the lineup. Obviously, Waller came out of this game and they said it's an IT band strain. So they think it's going to be, that's better news than what we initially thought because he left the game. He was on the bike, all these different things. So, I mean, CBS practically had a Darren Waller cam on him the whole game. It was,
I wish I could have gotten one of those on DeAndre Swift, man. I couldn't get anything on DeAndre Swift.
Can we get eyes on Waller?
I know, dude. It was like, where was this at? And the DeAndre Swift stuff.
But to answer your question, Austin, I think, Hunter Renfro demands our attention. And look, it took me about 3 weeks in the waiver column a few weeks back to finally say, look, we have to, shut down priors. We don't necessarily want this guy to be the thing, but he is the thing. I mean, he's the wide receiver 20 now in PPR. Obviously, more guys need to play. But this was, last week against Cincinnati was only his second time under 11 fantasy points of PPR. And then this week goes off for 21. We see what's possible here with Henry Ruggs out of lineup and with Waller. I mean, I think that's the bigger thing here. If Waller misses time, Renfro becomes even more of a target monster in this offense. And then we could see some other pieces getting involved. Now, as far as the Deshaun Jackson piece, it's kind of similar to what we thought with Bryan Edwards. I think there's going to be different games where Bryan Edwards is a guy, where Deshaun Jackson is a guy. I don't know if you're ever going to be able to project correctly which tertiary piece for these Raiders is going to be the one. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. I mean, the Raiders continue to be one of the best passing offenses in the league. They compile yardage. I think Derek Carr is going to remain one of the highest yardage guys on the year, if not the yardage leader as a passer, and that's just because they have some things working in the passing game here.
Very, very agree with you on those statements. And I'm going to get my words together here. I promise pretty soon. We are moving over. Johnny, I wanted to talk about the Buffalo Bills and the New Orleans Saints with you. We saw Josh Allen, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but it didn't ending up mattering with a 31-6 rout of the Saints. Devin Singletary was the most involved rusher, Johnny, with 15 carries, but only 44 yards, 2.9 yards per carry. Matt Breida, we saw get more involved too. We thought this was going to be coming up. This was spoken about earlier in the week with especially the Zach Moss scratch there. So 9 carries there, 26 yards. Nothing you're getting excited about, but maybe something you're getting less excited about now with Devin Singletary, as he's never seeming to be able to have a true lion's share on this backfield. Doesn't seem like the Bills want that to happen. But Stephon Diggs doing what they wanted him to be doing when they brought him over, 7 receptions, 74 yards. And everybody else, they're kind of a mixture there. Yes, Cole Beasley, number 2, 5 receptions, 46 yards. But then 2 catches for Gabe Davis, 3 catches for Dawson Knox. But he did have those 2 touchdowns. Yeah. So how are you looking at this Buffalo Bills passing attack here?
Yeah, I didn't think Knox was going to have – I was worried about Knox, scoring the touchdowns. The Saints had only given up 1 coming into this game, so I was nervous for the Knox. play because I felt like it was a very touchdown dependent, but that's what you get. That's why we play the game. Got 2. So again, I think moving forward, Dawson Knox continues. I'm not gonna pull him out of my lineup now. Like, this was his most difficult matchup, and so he still produces. Like, if you're gonna score a touchdown, we labeled it earlier, and I think it's like so dead on of a great comp, and that is last year's Bobby T, Robert Tonyan, because that's what he did. He feasted, and that was where he made his heyday, was off of touchdowns. Had 15 last year. It looks like Knox could be on that kind of same track. I'm not sure he's going to get 15 because he missed some time. But again, Knox, that was what the big takeaway for me. And real quick, just touching on Diggs, we talked about how Diggs he was a wide receiver 2 for most of the season. And what we saw over the last couple of years was that he on average gets about 4 to 5 games as that wide receiver 1. He had only had 1 up to a couple of weeks ago. So now you're really starting to see him turn it back on, just like he did similar to last year. So I think Diggs moving forward as well is also going to be a really big pivotal piece for you.
So if I'm hearing you right, kind of 2 shifters we saw on the Bills side of the ball here. Dawson Knox is now a tight end that you can bank on a little bit. We're going to keep him in our lineups. And Stephon Diggs now moving from that tight end, wide receiver 2 that he had for the majority of the season. And now we're seeing him return a little bit to form in that wide receiver 1. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, where you kind of drafted him to be.
All right, there we go. And so, like, touching then on the other side of the ball in that Bills-Saints matchup, not as much exciting information here to cover on the Saints side, but we are professionals, so let's get to it here. Trevor Siemian, 163 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Not loving that in my super flex, but it is what it is. And that 1 touchdown pass there going to Nick Vannett, not a name that we've spoken a lot about, just 1 catch there. 5 on the receiving side of the ball. Ty Montgomery led the day, 5 catches, 31 yards. Lil Jordan Humphrey got 3 catches for 47. And then the guy that we had been talking about a little bit, Traquan Smith, 4 catches, 31 yards. So no receiver breaking 50 yards on the day. Trevor Siemian, 163 yards passing. And then looking at the rushing side of the ball, Tony Jones Jr. got in. I remember talking about him at the beginning of the year. 16 carries, 27 yards, 1.7 yards per carry. I wonder if he's flirting with history with those averages on there. But not as much exciting information over there. I'll bring this over to you, Travis. Is there any takeaways that we should be pulling from the Saints side? I'm looking, saying maybe Trevor Siemian had a hot start. Maybe this is somebody, though, that does have the ability to catapult the entire offense. Ingram was out. Different questions at the running back, and there's still never been a wide receiver for the Saints in 2021. Anything else that you see on the Saints side of the football, Travis?
I think there's a mixture of this offense without Alvin Kamara and even Mark Ingram is very one-dimensional, very vanilla. It's not things that you can get, excited about. And then on the other hand, they also ran in to a buzzsaw that was the Bills, who just got boat raced the week before or beat up by the Indianapolis Colts. So it was always going to be a hard trap game for our stars against Buffalo coming into this Thursday game. So I think that's a lot of what we saw. Now going forward, I think just as far as the rest of the season looks like, we need to get Kamara back. If we don't, then I don't know how this offense has any kind of ceiling. Now, Mark Ingram will still be a nice RB2, but he's more of a floor RB2 in this offense right now because of the way things are going. And you look at Dallas, pretty good against the run, but then they get the Jets, and then again Tampa Bay, but then Miami. So there's some sprinkle. There's like 2 good matchups, 2 bad ones. You're going to have to pick your spots. But if we don't get Kamara back, Ingram's going to be kind of the only usable piece here. I was interested to see what Traquan Smith would do because he had been warming up. But, again, like this offense just could not get anything going. It was really, really bad last night.
No, I hope to see some of these pieces coming back, but I'm just not sure we're going to be getting a lot of substance out of this Saints offense for fantasy purposes rest of the season. Alvin Kamara, though, was a beast, obviously. Wait and see. Johnny, kicking over to the last of the the Thanksgiving games on Thursday that we had. The Chicago Bears visited Detroit. The winless Detroit Lions stayed that way, where the Bears ended up pulling this one out by 16-14. Andy Dalton for the Bears there got the start with Justin Fields dealing with some cracked ribs. 317 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception for Andy Dalton. The run game, David Montgomery, not surprised to see him lead the field there with 17 carries. Khalil Herbert just with 4. 46 yards rushing. You'd like to see him do better than that, but you do feel good with those 17 carries. The exciting piece I wanted to bring up, Darnell Mooney, 5 catches, 123 yards. looking good really on this one. So I wanted to get your take here on the Chicago side of the ball. What kind of fantasy meat are you tantalized by this Thanksgiving Day game?
For me, it was definitely a disappointment for Monty. Monty should have been in a really big smash spot. He had over 100 yards rushing last time he played Detroit before his injury, had 2 touchdowns, and then comes into this game somewhat of a dud. You do like the fact he continues to get the bulk of the carries there. But again, I do still think because of Monty's schedule moving forward, he is still a buy low. I think you can go out and try to get him. Some trade deadlines are this week, so it might be pretty hard to get him now. But if you still have an opening window, I'm definitely going in and trying to acquire him right now because we know he is locked in as the 1A there. They're giving him the bulk of the carries, getting about 20 touches per game so far since coming back. So I still think that Monty has a lot of upside heading into the second or this down the field stretch here for fantasy football.
Yeah, Andre Silva there with a good question that Johnny was just sliding into at the same time. Is money a buy low or a time to panic? We like that as a buy low. Still getting the work. We know this team has the opportunity. Not going to be like an elite running back, but you're not expecting him to. Like he's going to do better than you even. He's going to do great.
Yeah, do great. And then Mooney, just real quick, just touching on Mooney. You asked about Mooney, Darnell Mooney. I think you're going to play him. He is now a wide receiver flex for me every week. He has taken over that alpha role. I will be very surprised based on what we have seen in history of players going into what would be a free agent contract. I don't think the Bears are going to franchise Allen Robinson again. We saw this with Kenny G last year where he got banged up and then he sat out the rest of the year for, business decisions. I think we could probably start seeing that with Allen Robinson moving forward. There's been no indication that he's coming back. And so therefore, I do think that Mooney is taking over as the alpha one. I do think we've seen the rapport, whether it be with Dalton or with Fields, that he's pretty safe in that, and that they both like to target him. So I do think Mooney is the guy that I want in this offense moving forward. And I would not be surprised at all if Allen Robinson did not return for the rest of the season.
Minnesota, Seattle, and the Giants in the fantasy playoffs for Darnell Mooney. So we like those 3 matchups. This is going to be like it's going to be interesting to see where Mooney lands at the end of this year. Right now, wide receiver 22 in PPR. Obviously, we've got more games to play, but this is one of those guys, he's going to have a hot down the stretch. And then where are we drafting him next year will be a big question, what happens in this offense? Because he's been the only one in that offense so far to really show rapport with our guy Fields. So going forward, that's going to be a really nice dynasty piece. If you picked up Mooney, something like that. I just think there's a lot at play here for Mooney and his future. And like Johnny said, the uncertainty and pretty much actually it's more certain than not that Allen Robinson's out the door for them. So
I think that was a great point that you brought up there, Johnny, about the business decision aspect of it. Colin Cowherd, I believe, made a pretty solid point talking about Baker Mayfield lately. And he was like, I think Baker Mayfield ended up costing himself a lot of money by coming in and playing in these last couple of games. We appreciate the grit narrative. We appreciate a tough quarterback. We don't appreciate a dumb quarterback who then can't throw the ball. And it's it's not always the old school, go with whatever you can all the time and you're going to get rewarded for it. You got to come when you show up, you got to be ready to perform, and you might suit yourself better if you just don't. And maybe performing is going to be dependent too on the offense, like in an Allen Robinson situation. You're just you know what, let's just move on and wish each other the best moving forward. See it happen in the NBA quite a bit.
And then, real quick, Z saying, honestly, I'd sell with Khalil Herbert there. And for me, I wouldn't, because if you just look at Herbert, originally I thought Herbert would get more touches with Monty with how he performed, right, and taking that RB2. But since Monty has returned, Herbert hasn't seen more than 16% of the total snaps, offensive snaps there. He's had a total of 9 touches in 3 games for a total of just over 21 yards. So I'm not really worried. I do think he is a handcuff that you should, if you have Monty, you should go out and try to get or pick him up off waivers. So I do think that's the important part, but I'm not worried about Herbert stealing any touches from Monty right now.
Z brings up a good point on this one. We haven't really considered this yet. Mon's rookie contract is up at the end of the season. Johnny is our resident Chicago beat fantasy fan here. What do you think about this? Are they bringing him back? Do you have any prognosis right now at this point?
I mean, it solely depends on the new coaching staff that brings that they bring.
And it could be a whole new GM too. Like they're not very happy with Ryan Pace, who drafted Monty.
Yeah.
So like that could be a big situation too, right? Like if the new GM comes in and it fundamentally doesn't make sense for them to pay a running back, which a lot of GMs don't like to do, I could easily see them rolling with Herbert, who they have enough film on to say, oh, like this guy was good with touches.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with Ronald's point here. He's gonna have value next year regardless, most likely. And I like Z's point bringing in personally like a cycle running backs at the end of their rookie contracts unless they're elite. I think a lot of GMs like to do that. Honestly, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad call to go ahead and make those moves. And you can be Leonard Fournette and bounce around. You'll keep finding work. Mr. Blue, afternoon, fellas. And
good afternoon.
Fair enough strategy here. Yeah, it's like it depends on where they land. Depends on what the new coaching staff wants to do. Johnny talks a lot about different offensive coordinators coming in and their algorithms that they play with. We saw Christian McCaffrey get a new offensive coordinator. I think it was Norv Turner came in there, and all of a sudden then he's getting that bell cow work. Changes his entire level. Changes his entire tier. All right, well, we've got one final game here to talk about, saving the best for last. We got the Detroit Lions, boys, put up 14 points against the Bears. Jared Goff coming in, 2 touchdowns. Not bad, 171 yards passing. They're pretty efficient, 21 completions there on 25 attempts. We saw Jamal Williams take the lead share. We'll talk about Deandre Swift here in a second. 15 carries, 65 yards. And then over on the receiving side of the ball, Hawkinson, love to see him get that touchdown. Kind of disappointed to see him just get 3 receptions, 35 yards. Josh Reynolds led the pack here with 70 yards. And it was Jamal Williams there with 5 receptions who led them all. Rookie Amon-Ra St. Brown bringing in 4 more catches for 23 yards. So, Johnny, bringing it over to you for Detroit, just your overall thoughts, prognosis here moving forward with the Deandre Swift news and the rest of the things we saw yesterday.
Thankfully, we got some good news that it looked terrible. I won't lie. I thought the moment it happened, oh man, I just was getting a bad feeling on that whole play too, because the play before you had Swift motion out. It was just going to be a screen play to Swift, which would have been like wide open, but then they end up having a false start. Then there was time running out, so they just need to run it. Swift trying to run out of bounds, gets landed on. It looked like a broken collarbone with the amount of pain that Swift was, writhing in on the sideline. Finally gets over. Talked about the cam. It was never even on him at all. Like he was just like, what's going on? And then you'd see these little clips and he'd be like, okay,
yeah. And if you read the sleeper update, it was always great when sleeper comes in there and they're like, he's on the sideline in so much pain. Yikes, in all caps.
I know. So man, it was brutal, dude. It was brutal. That was not a great way to start. Thanksgiving morning. But we got good news. It's just a shoulder sprain. He's day to day. We'll see. Again, we're just kind of crossing our fingers and saying, all right, Swift, because you've been such a big part of a lot of fantasy teams. Hopefully he's back in time for that playoff push, because he's got some really great matchups during that time. And then as far as the other pass catchers go, as wide receivers, still not really buying into it. I wouldn't flex any of them or feel confident in there. And Hawkinson, just monitor his stuff, because he did go out after that touchdown. He went to the locker room, so he's dealing with some kind of injury.
Yep, keep an eye out for that one, as well as the other ailments that we got coming up. And we're going to be doing the live broadcasting multiple times a week, jumping into all these questions. We got our Monday reaction show. We've got the Friday news and notes that we're doing right now. And then Johnny and Travis do the Sunday lineup show, an hour and a half before the morning games. Sunday morning, that's 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, and now 11:30 Arizona time, because y'all are smart and don't switch it up. So be sure to tune in to get all of the new, more questions for your lineup answered. Then we'll have more information on all these other players as well as they come in. So we're going to go ahead now and jump into the rest of the news from around the league. But if you like the breakdown, you like what you're listening to, consider hitting us with a subscribe if you're new to the channel. And you've already subscribed. You've already hit that button. Go ahead and make sure you get this specific video a thumbs up to help us grow out what we love doing. Moving over now to our next topic on the day, we are going to be talking here about, oh my goodness, internet in different places and how it can make things pause. That's what we're going to be talking about. No, I'm just playing over here. I wanted to talk here. We're going to go to the Atlanta Falcons. where we've got Johnny's boy, the fantasy glitch, the fantasy typo. There's still a debate out there in the world on this one. But we've got Cordarrelle Patterson. We've got Cordarrelle Patterson, who missed last week dealing with that ankle. And as of now, he is listed as questionable week 12 against the Jaguars. He did participate in practice all week, but he was limited. Still seems likely to play. He'd be in for a real big boost. The Falcons offense would be if he's in. Johnny, do you have him locked into your lineups if Cordarrelle Patterson is active, or are you a little bit hesitant after we saw a depressed performance from the Falcons offense last couple of weeks and he is still dealing with an ankle?
It is going to be hard for me not to play him if he's able to go. Again, he's been such a cornerstone of that offense. We've seen that offense struggle as well. And there were reports he was really close last week to playing. Didn't end up giving a go because it was Thursday night game. He's got an extra long rest off of that. So I would feel pretty solid about putting him in my lineup if he's able to go this week, just because, we talked about he's a fantasy glitch. So he is able to kind of cheat his way to a very solid fantasy production day, no matter what, because he gets used outside and inside. So I do think that as long as he is active, and we'll know, obviously, we'll get more information on it. They'll tell us, hey, he's active, but he's probably going to be limited due to the ankle. We'll know that. So make sure you're tuning in Sunday morning where we can give you the up to date. But if you can't, if he's going, I'm most likely playing him.
Yeah, Andre coming in says, hope that CPAP plays this week. I desperately need him to shine. My listener league squad, Chelsea's and mine, could certainly use that too. And quickly, the last thing I wanted to round it out there, Johnny, was, am I crazy for almost thinking that Cordarrelle Patterson has a better opportunity coming in because of how bad that offense has looked without him? Like, is it like, oh, you're our savior, man, we need to go to you to help us get some air because we're underwater right now? Am I crazy for thinking that?
I mean, you're not crazy for thinking that. I definitely think that they'll continue to scheme him. He's a big part of that offense. So I definitely think that you could see him get more involved. I also think that Pitts will also get more involved and have a better day, because defense can't just focus on taking Pitts out, and then that's like their only offense when he's out. So
that was going to be my note, is that I think Patterson actually opens up things so they can't just bracket the hell out of Pitts like we've been able to do. We saw the Patriots do when Patterson wasn't in there because they had no respect for the run game. And why would they when they equated to like negative yards? The two backups did in Patterson's relief. So, yeah, I believe that. And if you look at as far as opportunity share with Patterson, we look at opportunity share, meaning like when they're in the game, do we give them the ball? I mean, he is one of the highest in opportunity share in the game because, as you said, Austin, when Arthur Smith looks at his squad, he says, who's going to make plays for me? Cordarrelle Patterson. I mean, and he schemes it as such, whether it's in the passing game or in the running game. The guy has been a stud for them, and I think that continues.
Well, I certainly hope so. My fantasy lineup certainly hopes so as well. And I know Andre does too. So we're pulling for Cordarrelle. Give a shout out to Easy Daddy. Boys, happy Thanksgiving from your friendly neighbor to the north. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Great to see you. Great to see y'all in here at Whisper Nation. Okay, so we're moving on over to the Baltimore Ravens, Travie, where your boy Lamar Jackson, he's been sick. He missed last week, non-COVID. Looks like he's healing up. Limited. Doesn't feel like he's 100%, but it looks like he's probably going to give it a go. Marquis Brown, similar trajectory. Not an illness, of course, but dealing with a thigh. He returned to practice on Wednesday. Trending in the right direction. Are you all systems go? Are you going a different direction with this news in Marquis Brown, in Lamar Jackson, any of the playmakers there for Baltimore?
No, we just hope we're back in their lineup as we make our playoff push. We like the targets that, Marquis Brown's been able to get when he's in there. I think, prior to last week, obviously he missed, but he had like 40 targets in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So he's the lead target getter on the team. He's the apple of Lamar's eye. And if we can get Lamar in the game, I think this is a good one for the passing offense. Cleveland has given up the 3rd most passing touchdowns to fantasy quarterbacks this year. So we like that for our shares of Lamar Jackson and Marquis Brown this week.
Love that breaking news here. I'm sure we all just had our vibration go off. A.J. Brown is out for the Titans.
Oh, yeah. Oh, someone was saying that's a good thing, because he's against he's against New England, so that was going to be a shutdown either way. So it's kind of nice that you know that he's going to be out, because then you could just sit him.
Yeah, you talk about Kyle Pitts going to have better days ahead. I was going to say that he can't play the New England Patriots defense every week. So that's nice. Yeah. Unfortunately, the Titans do this week. Yeah, hoping they keep A.J. Brown out. Man, just pour one out for the Tennessee Titans offense and fan base. AJ Brown, Julio Jones, Derrick Henry. Like, oh man, sucks.
It's your boy Nickel or Westbrook.
Yeah, Nick Westbrook. He kind is a big. It's a desperate play. I still think, because I think if they know that that's the one person they're going to go after in the passing offense, we don't like the number one option against Bill Belichick, and so I think it's. But NWI maybe going forward could have some stock going up there.
Yeah, it's a good question here by Scott. This week, I mean, I fall into the trap sometimes of being like, oh, the yard's got to go somewhere. Something's got to happen. There's going to be a guy who pops off. We've seen it happen in the past, but it's like we've also seen quarterbacks throw for like 150 yards.
Yeah.
In a game, we've seen it like a lot of times. We just saw it with Trevor Siemian. We've seen it with so many dudes. Like, guys are not guaranteed to break 200 yards and then disperse those 197 yards over like 8 different dudes. And then it's a rushing touchdown by a third string back. And it's like, there's really not that much fantasy meat to grab. It's like, I'm not thirsty for any of these wideouts right now.
I do think in PPR, Hilliard, if McNichols is out again, would be an interesting flex play.
Yes.
Because
got
he did
10 targets.
Yeah. So like that is something I have a little more faith in than a third string wide receiver coming in and potentially being the lead dog. I do think NWI going into softer matchups would have value, but this week we're going to focus on our backs, and I think Hilliard's a decent flex play this week, at least over Adonta Foreman, who would probably be the pure rusher given that AP's gone, and that's just a little bit of a scary proposition against New England.
Dude, we're going to focus on our halfbacks in Tennessee. I think the Titans and Mike Vrabel are going to be focusing on the backs as well. This is a run-first team they want it to be, and now they don't have any other flashy wide receivers either. I think it still makes sense. You can get a lot more bang for your buck from backup running backs as well. I think that's where they're going to lean in this one, Travis. I think that's a strong insight. But you talked about Jeremy Nichols, and you talked about the receiving back. Got another one here on the docket with Kareem Hunt moving to the Cleveland Browns offense, where the popular halfback is set to return. He's going to play in Week 12 against the Rams. He's been out for a while with a calf injury. We've also got Baker Mayfield, shoulder, foot, groin, head, knees, and toes. Did not practice on Wednesday. Mayfield had previously said that he planned to participate in practice on Wednesday, ultimately showed up in street clothes and sat out of all activities. That groin injury, it's new. It's not a lot of positive points pointing that up. Johnny, are you playing Kareem Hunt this week? Are you considering any of the other pass catchers? Can you shake the Cleveland Browns offense there for me?
I'm only going to trust, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in this. I would play Kareem Hunt if he plays. I expect him to play. And we just talk about this matchup where they allow the pass catcher a lot of yards. So he should still be pretty safe despite coming off the injury and whatnot. I do think this is going to be a heavy run game plan, especially with how banged up Cleveland is on the wide receiver front. So I can expect a huge running day and a lot of dump offs to Kareem Hunt. So I'm still playing him.
Any consideration, Travis? I'm with you on all those points, Johnny. In Dynasty, I'm a little hurting over at tight end with Logan Thomas still, we're coming back. And I'm giving some consideration to Austin Hooper. It's a little bit of a desperation play for me, but I am encouraged seeing a little bit of an uptick the last couple of weeks. 5 targets, 4 receptions 2 weeks ago, and then 7 targets, 4 catches, 53 yards. He got his second touchdown 2 weeks ago. I mean, is he working his way into like maybe streamable consideration?
Yeah,
matchup base. Baltimore's not bad.
Yeah, I think he's one of my favorite streamers, and that just tells you how bad the tight end situation is right now. But we've got Kelsey on bye, so maybe you want to go ahead and get Hooper in there. As you said, uptick in usage here, either a touchdown or 50 yards in back-to-back games. So again, small sample size here, but if the run game gets going again, then we could see some play action stuff in the works. We could see a red zone, more red zone trips where Hooper could get a touchdown. And Baltimore, a top 5 defense in points allowed to the tight end position. So we really like the matchup from a metric standpoint.
Yes, that's true. And I don't know if I mentioned that Jarvis Landry, still dealing with that knee, didn't participate in Wednesday's practice, had it aggravated in week 11. So if he does play, if he's in, it's still like you're kind of fading it, as Johnny pointed to as well. Makes sense for fantasy, makes sense for the Browns. Speaking of wide receivers, though, over in Denver, we're celebrating some paydays. Cortland Sutton just signed a 4-year contract extension up to $60.8 million. And we also had Tim Patrick signing a 3-year, $34.5 million deal. So they like their pass catchers over there. Cortland Sutton, we've seen have some good games. We've seen the emergence of Jerry Jeudy really bring down his work, but it seems like they still love him over there in Denver. Johnny, Can you breathe any hopeful words for Cortland Sutton rosters, or do you think that it's probably you may be finding some more hope in a different direction?
Probably want to find hope in another direction. He's coming off
Yeah.
back-to-back games with only 8% target share. He's only had a high of 16% since Jerry Jeudy came back. You just need a better quarterback in there that's willing to throw it down the field and spread it out. It's just not looking good with Teddy B back there.
And like maybe a better offense. Like right now,
Yeah.
the Broncos are just a slow run first offensive team. We've got both backs averaging around 13 touches per game. So like that's just not a lot of volume for the passing attack to go by. And yeah, some of that's on Teddy, some of that's on a defensive minded coach in Denver and what they want to do. So we'll see what these contracts actually mean. A lot of people think it's like gearing up to be in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes, maybe the Russell Wilson sweepstakes. And it's like, we'll see what happens for Denver, but they definitely have weapons. They just need a quarterback.
Yeah.
Good points. Good points. Okay. Eric, what's up, Eric? Good to have you here in the show. What's up, Whisper Nation? Got a question that's relevant to the topic at hand. Full point PPR for my RB2. Should he go Javonte Williams, running back there for Denver, or Kareem Hunt, who's going to be coming back?
Full
John,
PPR.
any strong takes from you?
Probably going to go Kareem Hunt in this situation with it being full PPR. I do think Javonte is going to probably start to break out here and become the running back that Denver starts to lean on more and more and get more and more involved in touches and things like that. But I just trust the upside of Kareem Hunt more than I do, and the matchup more than Javonte.
I think that's cool. Good too. Like Kareem Hunt, Javonte Williams kind of have similar-ish roles on similarly built offenses in some ways, but Javonte Williams just hasn't been getting the pass volume that you'd like to see. Week 10, 3 targets, 2 catches for just 1 yard, 13 receiving yards the week before that. 32 was his best performance of the month in terms of receiving yards, and that came on 6 catches, but 32 yards in week 7. So yeah, I think it's got to go the Kareem Hunt upside with what they expect of him, what they've seen him do in the past, and I hope for better days with Javonte Williams. We'll see. Moving forward here, we talked there about Deandre Swift, considered day-to-day with a shoulder sprain. That's really good news. Another running back in the North, Big Travie, our boy Aaron Jones, been dealing with that knee, was limited participant for Friday's practice. Jones practiced throughout the week, but it's still unclear for Sunday since Green Bay's bye is right around the corner in week 13. And of course, they do have A.J. Dillon. Wrapping in Aaron Rodgers here. He's got his toe. It's on his profile picture. He's super proud of it. He's not going to talk about it, but it's going to be the only thing that we end up talking about. And I'm sure he's going to have a hand or a foot in that role there. So what are you thinking here about our Packers, Aaron Rodgers? I'm feeling it's like drama. I'm feeling like the man loves the drama.
Oh, yeah.
The more that we can say like, oh, look what is, and then he gets 41, drops a 40 burger in fantasy. You do that.
He was dealing with his toe before last week's game. Like this, he came in the same situation where he missed Wednesday and Thursday, but then practiced Friday. It is interesting to note he did not practice today, is what I read, and that he was just going to basically go from no practice to play and not put any more pressure on the toe than he needs to. He told Pat McAfee that there were a few options, surgery, sitting out, and the only option for him was to play through it. So he's going to play based on what he's been saying, but then of course he's misled people too. So who knows?
Disinformation. Okay.
I think that he plays. He continues to play until it becomes unbearable for him. They joked about amputating it on the Pat McAfee show. I thought that was pretty funny, but I don't think that's going to happen. And as far as Aaron Jones, this one's a little bit baffling. At first, we thought it could have been just a sprain. Then we thought it was an actual strain, like it was more of a serious strain, could be 4 weeks. The bye week is literally next week. I'm curious to think that this is a big game for the Packers for playoff seeding. The Rams are
lost last week.
Yeah, they lost last week. So I could understand there's pressure to get Jones back. Look, if Jones, I like to err with Austin here. If Jones says he's good to go, the team clears him and he goes, I think he belongs in your lineup as the starter, as the 1A in this team. But I would be, you don't love it. You want to see him get another week off if you have both guys. And I think, whereas A.J. Dillon is locked into our lineup as an RB1 or 2, should Jones play, then I think he'd become more of a flex for me in that situation.
We had a good question up there about starting A.J. Dillon. I know we'll get back to that question here later. Yeah, I'm tough. I got Aaron Jones in our league of record and A.J. Dillon. I think I'm starting AJ Dillon. I don't know. I'm gonna need to tune in to the Sunday morning live lineup show at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time as we get a little bit more information. And if you want to join that show too, Whisper Nation, just make sure you got the notifications turned on. If you go ahead and subscribe to the channel, you'll be notified then of when those shows do come up. That one I'm talking to is about the Sunday live lineup show, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. It's an hour and a half before kickoff, so 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. Be going through all of your questions with the most recent up-to-date information available. So keep monitoring that Packers backfield. I know I will be because I've got some big decisions myself. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. We'll see. Moving on to the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to kick this one over here to Johnny. We've got Philip Lindsay now picked up. He was cut by the Texans. Now he is a Dolphin. We like Myles Gaskin. We've seen as an uptick. What kind of impact does this have? Any consideration for Philip Lindsay? Any downtick there for Myles Gaskin? A wait and see, not a big deal. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a wait and see. I mean, you don't like it if you have Gaskin because they've been shown to just throw in these running backs, especially if they don't, if they're not heavily invested in them. They're like, hey, let's see what we got, and they just, again, Gaskin, good running back, but not quite getting the push as far as the goal line work goes right now, and it's just a week to week kind of thing with Gaskin. So we've been very much pushing. If you have Gaskin, try to trade him before the trade deadline. This might make it a little bit more difficult. I'm not going to say that, Philip Lindsay is going to come in here and steal half the touches. I don't think that. I think it is more of a depth piece. But again, we try to, talk about rational coaching on this show and how we can bank on that when projecting some of these players. And the unfortunate part is with the running back carousel there in Miami is they don't have coaching rational, or they're not rational with their coaching there all the time. So it's kind of hard to predict.
Well, we're going to do our best to try to predict, as fuzzy it might be. We might be pulling out that magic 9 ball. Travis, you might need to get that one out there to help us. We got it on hand. If
got it ready.
Break the glass in case of emergency.
Yeah.
And we're not at the breaking glass in case of emergency stage here in the New England Patriots backfield.
That's close.
We're close. But we're close. We're close. Ramondre Stevenson was added to the Patriots Thursday injury report with a knee issue, getting in a limited session. This is the first time Stevenson has been listed with this knee all year, so it's not likely just like a maintenance day. He's a young guy too. We know that the Patriots, that is, are typically pretty cryptic with their news injuries. With all the information that come out, how do you shake in this one, Travis? We've been talking about Damian Harris, we've been talking about Ramondre Stevenson, talk about Brandon Bolden, J.J. Taylor, all these things. Someone in the Patriots backfield is usually good each week. Now, though, who are we predicting? What do you think?
Yeah, this is a decent spot for both backs, too. But as you said, Ramondre Stevenson and then even Damian Harris started the week limited with a neck injury. So you don't like that. You have Ramondre with the knee. We'll have to see how Friday's practice reports shake out, and then we'll know more a lot. Obviously, this is one of those wait and see till the Sunday matchup show, Sunday lineup show, of course. I would be leaning, if both are active, I'm leaning Stevenson just because of his involvement in the passing game. I think that, especially in PPR formats, that gives him a little bit of the edge. But I think both are fine, RB3 flex plays, RB2, 3 borderline kind of, with Stevenson giving a slight edge if both are active to me. Now, if Stevenson doesn't go and Harris is back in, Harris vaults up to another high ceiling RB2 for me. So just kind of monitor that and see where you're at with it. Hopefully you have both, or you have one and you can monitor the status of the other.
Yeah, hopefully you got something better going on, and keep bringing those questions to us. I know I'm going to bring, that's another real question for me, man. I got some serious ones I got the Green Bay backfield and the New England backfield. I got the whole thing, and it's all screwy on all sides of it. So
Start all four. You won't.
Don't tempt me, man. We'll see. Moving over to the New York Giants side, Johnny. We've been talking about this. Oh, my God. Party at the crack house. I'm going to make that metaphor come to life here. I hope not, though, actually. It's awful because we don't want to see that. We want to see people get right. We want to see people get healthy in New York. And there's such excitement at the wide receiver position. Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, even Sterling Shepard. But we're not going to see Sterling Shepard this week. He's dealing with a quad. He likely won't play against the Eagles. And neither will Kadarius Toney. Jordan Raanan said that he would not expect to see him out there against the Eagles. There was no sign of Toney at Friday's practice. What do we make sense of this? We've also got Saquon Barkley, of course. That got a question: is he even startable, or should we be even playing Saquon Barkley? How are you shaking out the playmakers there in New York?
I think Saquon's startable. I'm interested to see. We got to remember. Well, What's funny is like the head coach tried to come out and play it off like he's like, I'm not telling you who's running these plays. And we're like, dude, you only have one offensive coordinator on your roster right now or on your coaching staff, and that's Freddie Kitchens. So it's just not gonna, like, this is a rocket science. You're not gaining a level up on your competition by not saying Freddie Kitchens, because guess what? People are just gonna go back and look at what Freddie Kitchens did anyway, because ex facto connect the dots. So Freddie Kitchens is going to be the offensive coordinator. So with that said, again, I'm not starting any of the wide receivers. I am interested to see Kenny G. I'm still holding on because there is a reality where Kitchens does hyper target Kenny G in that alpha wide receiver position. But I'm playing Saquon because I know that Freddie Kitchens is going to get the ball to him or make that an emphasis, especially with all these wide receivers out.
That seems like a pretty logical piece, right? Like, you are a new offensive coordinator coming in and you've got a player like Saquon Barkley. I mean, you're playing for your own self-preservation at that point too. And it's like, yo, we've got a great running back in Saquon. I'm here, like, let's go. Let's make the most out of the players that we have. And I don't know if Saquon's had that kind of, I don't want to call it pressure, but maybe expectation or encouragement. You know, it's been such like a soft start and we'll see. And he's been calling the shots, but now we're getting different shot callers coming into New York. And that's gonna shift the dynamic. That's gonna shift what the expectations are and the encouragement. I'm actually kind of excited to see then what Saquon might be able to do there. Moving on over to the New York Football Jets. We've talked a lot about these wide receivers, and for good reason. We've had Corey Davis, who's been kind of reliable throughout the season when he's played, and then this Elijah Moore breakout that's been happening. Last week, of course, 141 yards and a touchdown there for Johnny's boy. Like to see this breakout happening. It's pretty fun. Corey Davis, though, had been dealing with a groin. He was held out of Thursday's practice. However, according to Rich Cimini over on Twitter, Robert Saleh expects Corey Davis to be able to play Week 12 against the Texans. On paper, Johnny, we said this was a really nice matchup. Do you stand by that? You'll get Elijah Moore in your lineup. I done that clip out on Instagram of you talking about Elijah Moore. Any switches to that?
No, I'm playing Elijah Moore. I think he continues his breakout, especially with these injuries to the wide receiver. I mean, if Corey Davis can't play, that was the big question. Is like, oh, well, is Zach Wilson going to target Corey Davis? Because that's what he did in the beginning of the season. And then you're getting Houston, like you had mentioned, one of the best matchups for wide receivers over the last 5 weeks. So I'm definitely playing Elijah Moore, at least as a flex this week.
It's a fun one, man. I'd love to see him become a piece. Like, just to see guys come out of tough circumstances. It's
especially like Elijah Moore. It's like the Jets have been through this dance before. Like they have so many wide receivers going on over there. Like they had Mims. Crowder, they had Denzel Mims. Like they had guys they picked up in the offseason.
Braxton Berrios, your boy.
Marquis Lee. Like just so many guys have cycled through. And we heard in the offseason Elijah Moore, and we're like, yeah, okay, shut up, Jets. We get it. Like he's good. And then like we got in the season, it was all Corey Davis. Well, then Elijah Moore, that we always say that talent should rise above, and it has over the last few weeks. I'm hesitant to like crown it with Zach Wilson because now Zach Wilson's coming back, and we saw the absolute floor of the Jets was with Zach Wilson. So we'll have to see what happens there, but I'm excited as well. I think Elijah Moore is somebody to hold and see what happens, obviously, and see what happens here. But I don't mind playing him this week against the Texans.
Yes, Eric, the answer is yes. Play the Eagles defense.
Yes.
I want to say one. I've been not a Zach Wilson fan, but I think that the journey he's gone on and the comments that have come out of the organization, talking about how it's okay to be boring, be a boring quarterback, and I think that I would rather have a quarterback you need to scale it back than a guy that you need to get it going. You know what I mean? Like, I think you can teach restraint. It's kind of hard to teach courage, if you will,
This is an interesting spot for Wilson, man. He sat and watched two other quarterbacks come in and play after he played horribly. He was quoted as saying he wanted to be more like the backup and Mike White. He's got a lot to prove as an overall, top 5 pick here and try and get it done for the Jets and turn this thing around. So we'll see.
We'll see. Eric said, so play the Eagles defense. Johnny agreed, and that's even looking nicer as we move over to Philadelphia, as cornerback Darius Slay says that he cleared the NFL's concussion protocol. He's going to play Week 12 against the Giants. Even worse news there for those Giants pass catchers. And on the offensive side of the ball for the Eagles, head coach Nick Sirianni said Jordan Howard knee is going to be out for Week 12. We got Miles Sanders back. Boston Scott still around. Johnny, any strong takes here from the Eagles offense with this news, Jordan Howard news?
I'm playing Miles Sanders. He's looked good. and they're actually running the ball even more. And so I do think that you can definitely bank on that.
There we go. All right, Whisper Nation, we're going to be getting to all of your questions here in just a second as we work our way through the final teams. We are now with the San Francisco 49ers, Travi, running back Elijah Mitchell. We know he's been dealing with that finger, limited participant for Thursday's practice. Unable to handle the ball with his right hand while recovering from his finger surgery. That's not great, but it is nice that he is recovering. I mean, we talk about this backfield all the time. We've got more information now, but how are you looking into this crystal ball? Who are you starting? What are your expectations?
Yeah, it's pretty clear cut as far as I'm concerned here. If Mitchell goes, they have enough faith in him to go. He will probably get around 18 touches. That's what happens when he's in the lineup. If he doesn't go, we saw Jeff Wilson get 20 touches last week. So maybe there's more Deebo Samuel sprinkled in if Wilson does go and Mitchell does not. But I think at the end of the day, Wilson still saw red zone looks. He still saw a target in the end zone that was overthrown by Jimmy Garoppolo. And this Vikings defense has just been very porous against the run and pass. So we like the points that are going to be scored in that game. I think San Francisco has one of the highest team implied totals. So we like either back if they go. But I wouldn't be playing Wilson if Mitchell went. And I think you go with Wilson if Mitchell doesn't go. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Mm-hmm.
And now moving on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We were just talking about the San Francisco 49ers backfield. We kind of like to talk about the Tampa Bay wide receivers. They got a lot of good ones. They really do. And a great quarterback, obviously. Johnny, your boy there, Antonio Brown, he's going to be out week 12 dealing with an ankle. Rob Gronkowski, your other boy, he's been practicing in full week 12 against the Colts. You really like to see that, obviously, after returning to the lineup on Monday against the Giants and playing 59% of the snaps. 6 catches, 71 yards. Looks like he's going to be on a nice uptick for the end of the season in your fantasy playoffs. I know that you had that in mind. Mike Evans is the big question mark that we really got to keep a finger on the pulse of. He's dealing with a back. He came back in the game last week, but that might have just been adrenaline. That just might have we don't have a strong lean on what Mike Evans is going to be, or at least I don't yet. I want to know if you do, Johnny, because he's dealing with a back issue and he was sidelined at Thursday's practice. What are you waiting to see? Are you starting him if he's in? Are you benching him if he's in? How are you looking at these Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receivers?
As long as if he's playing, I expect Mike Evans to play. He's a warrior. He's he rarely misses any games. I'm playing him in this matchup, even if he gets back-to-back DNPs. Now, if he doesn't play, obviously don't play him. But I do think he ultimately ends up giving it a go. It's against Indianapolis. It should be a mega smash spot, especially with Gronk. Indianapolis, one of the top fantasy points giver-uppers to the tight end position. Giver-uppers, I know it's not a word, but they give a lot of fantasy points to the tight end position, and Gronk.
It needs to be a word. Giver-uppers is going to be my new favorite phrase in fantasy.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
It is now.
No, it is now. It is now.
So moving on here to the Tennessee Titans, which we already touched on, but wanted to mention that good old boy Golden Tate, he's been picked back up. The Titans signed Golden Tate. He's going to be active. I mean, he might actually be playing pretty soon. Who knows, since A.J. Brown's out, Julio's out. Marcus Johnson was put on the IR because of his hamstring earlier as well. We already mentioned this. Are we wanting to start any pass catchers in Tennessee?
No, not this week, but Tate would be an interesting pickup if we're going to see extended miss time for AJ Brown and Julio Jones. Not saying like he's going to be a world beater, but Golden Tate and PPR could be something that flashes. We've seen Marcus Johnson and NWI like get enough targets in this offense, and they're very hungry for playmaking. So
Vrabel's competent, Tannehill's competent. The ball would have to go somewhere. At that point, he really could stand out given all the other injuries. Wait and see. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why he was available to be picked up as well.
Yeah,
we'll see. Just like Adrian Peterson, another former favorite that got picked up and let go. Easy come, easy go. Moving on here to the Washington football team. Antonio Gibson. Antonio, limited participant at practice. Gibson is what we just call him. So was J.D. McKissick with an ankle. They're both expected to suit up, though. We're just seeing more of this moving along. I guess, Johnny, just a temperature check on this Antonio Gibson, massive volume, but ticking time bomb shin. Just keep on keeping on.
Yeah, just keep getting him in your lineup. I would play him this week. It is concerning, but there's there's not really much you could do at this point. You just got to keep rolling him out there and hope for the best. Hopefully he makes it the rest of the season. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be so great too. Like I would just love to see it for him, and then like actually heal. Maybe we get a good.
And then go in the off season with the surgery. That would be great.
Yeah,
that
good for you, man.
Really
That'd be
great.
good. And worth noting too that Curtis Samuel, he's been dealing with a groin, was limited on Thursday. He's re-aggravated this one a couple of times. I'm not getting super excited about this. It just seems like somebody's gonna like sit with him, and I think he wants to get out there and make it up for his new team. But like, I don't know. I'm not getting excited about Curtis Samuel. Anybody? Am I wrong on that?
No, I think the secondary piece has been up and down. We've been whack-a-mole with whoever it's going to be, but Logan Thomas is the interesting note here because
Last one, yeah.
if Logan Thomas comes back, then I don't even think we're even less excited about some of the secondary pieces in the passing game because we know that his usage gets ramped up. I just wanted a quick note on Logan Thomas. Saturday's the big day, so we'll know a little bit more if he's activated. And so maybe he's activated and still a questionable call. Austin Hooper plays in that Sunday night game. You've got RSJ potentially maybe in the Washington. And then, sneaky, not great, but if you're that desperate and you want to still try and play Logan Thomas, Gerald Everett is a, low-owned tight end for the Seattle Seahawks that plays against Washington on Monday night. And Washington about middle of the road against tight ends, about 7 points a game. So not the best. I would actually probably rather pivot to Hooper, but I think we should know more about Logan Thomas tomorrow.
All right, there you have it. And Whisper Nation, be sure to like and subscribe to the Fantasy Whispers to catch those notifications when we have our new live lineup shows coming your way. The next one's going to be Sunday morning, an hour and a half before kickoff. That's 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. We'll have more news on Logan Thomas. We'll have more news on Aaron Jones. We'll have more information from around the NFL to help you with those last-minute lineup decisions. But boys, we got through all of the NFL teams with all the news and the notes. So now it's time to get to your questions, Whisper Nation. We're going to go up to the top and work our way down. Boys, feel free to help me pulling in these questions because mobile Wi-Fi is a beautiful thing. It's sometimes just a little bit inconsistent, so I appreciate that help on that side. James Davila says, need help, y'all. We got you, man. Need to drop someone for a defense. Currently benching Edmonds, Ingram, Cam, have Dak, Javonte Williams, King Henry, Claypool, Fant, have Gronk. Okay.
I'm dropping King Henry.
I think you can drop Cam here. You have Dak. You don't need to roster two quarterbacks, right? So keep on to Henry. Maybe he can get back in time. I think that's got a little bit more value than rostering the two quarterbacks. That would be my opinion.
Henry's not coming back. Henry is not coming back. He might make it. They're saying he might make it back by the time
week 17.
No, the playoff by their playoffs. Their playoff.
Well,
that's
not the most recent one I read. He said that he could be back by week 17. So
the one that NFL Live was talking about it just this past week on yesterday before the games, and they were saying Henry, it was not on NFL on Get Up. They were talking about it, and they said they might be lucky if Henry can get back by their playoffs. I would drop Henry. He's not coming back this year.
If he's not coming back, that's a clean, easy drop. That's an easy one. It will probably get more and more information.
But it's speculation on if he's coming back. That's my point here. There's speculation still. Like that's not been told to us by the team that he's not coming back by then. So for me, like I'm not going to roster two quarterbacks. I'm going to keep on to pieces that actually I can play in other positions. But I can understand that you want to drop Henry. That's fine.
What about Claypool? We've been kind of off of Claypool for a while. Does he have the upside worth rostering?
I mean, he has games where he gets over 90 yards and still. So, like, I think he still has upside for sure.
For sure. Okay. Well, some things to keep monitoring on this one. You got a few pieces that you could probably move on from. A couple of guys you don't want to cut, but you got a couple of pieces here. I would say, if you can get I don't think Derrick Henry plays. I haven't seen that confirmed yet. We'll see more of that comes out. You very well could be ahead of the curve. That could just be what it is. And if that is, I think we'll probably see some confirmations coming out as more news continues. He's a big name. We'd expect to see some harder questions coming at the staff. Moving on to these questions. If Aaron Jones plays, would you start Antonio Gibson or still roll with A.J. Dillon? It's half point PPR. So in this one, Aaron Jones is playing. Antonio Gibson or A.J. Dillon?
Oh, that's tough, man. I'd probably still roll with Gibson. Because of the matchup against Seattle. They've been, giving up pretty good points against the run, but I don't know. Johnny, do you have a preference either way? Would you still roll with Dillon if Jones goes? Good news is
no,
they play Monday night. So
yeah, if Jones plays, I would go Gibson.
Okay.
I'm going Gibson because I think they want him to be more of a vein.
Yeah.
Like I've wanted more out of Dillon from the role, and I just haven't seen it yet. And Gibson, like they shouldn't be giving it to him, and they do. Like they want him to be a piece, I think. So I'd be getting Gibson in there for sure. Let's see here. Moving on. Some good sports cards comments in here coming in.
I know our guy coming in here. AF talking about sports cards. I love it.
Yeah. Andre Silva making a trade right here just in case.
I like this trade.
It's a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like this trade.
Ryan Evans. I have Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. Who do you think has the higher upside this week, Johnny?
Lamar has the higher upside. I think Lamar has the higher upside each and every single week. I would play Lamar this week.
Any concern with the sickness? Is that curbing anything?
Oh, get down with the sickness, dude. No,
it's not COVID. It's not COVID. That's good.
Again, Lamar playing Cleveland, who've given up the third most passing touchdowns. So this is actually a ceiling game setup for Lamar. Will he get there? Don't know. It's been a while since he played. He could come in a little rusty, but again, his rushing floor is the same as Jalen Hurts, and I think his passing offense is much better, much more weapons, so I think he remains the higher ceiling week to week. But there is nobody more consistent in fantasy football than Jalen Hurts. Like, he has the best floor of any quarterback in fantasy football right now. That's just the facts of the situation. But again, this is a ceiling question. Who has the higher upside this week? It's definitely Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, kind of wild to see Jalen Hurts before the Thursday games to be the #1 overall player in fantasy, but not have a 40-point game yet.
Right.
You know, he's like riding that floor all the way to the top
one
spot.
game outside of the top 12. Like, so
yeah. Any guys come to mind here from Scott's question? Got a sleeper this week that you want to give a shout out to?
Dude, you have to ask Johnny this. He called the MVS one last week. He's the backyard barbecue uncle that has all the secrets, dude. Who do you start?
Big Travie had the Renfro one. That was a good one. He said
Renfro doesn't really count as a sleeper, but we need some more MVS magic, dude. Who's your guy? You got to tell us. Dude.
I was searching and there's not many like low key under the radar big splashes this week. I tried searching, but I don't think I think it's going to be more chalk this week, unfortunately.
No sneaky ones popping up.
I do think that Logan Thomas on Monday night actually has a lot of upside. Hopefully he gives it a go. It's sounding like he is. I do think that he will come back and have a big game against Seattle. But I don't have any deep dives yet.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. Scott, another question here. Tom Brady or Jalen Hurts in high stakes league where I can win and I get 3,000. Hope we get you closer to that. We like Jalen Hurts a lot. Tom Brady, though, I mean, not as many weapons. Not playing his best football, but maybe the best football player of all time. And then Jalen Hurts, who is the #1 player, but like it's such a weird situation there. Strong takes on this one?
Oh man. If high stakes are on the line, I'm trying to go like Brady's nice because he still kind of has a floor. He's been consistent enough and he's touched the ceiling that I don't think Hurts really has, and that's because of the offense and the weapons they have. If Evans goes, I think you can continue to roll out Brady. I think maybe if Evans doesn't go, then you can pivot to Hurts. I think that's probably where I'd be at with it.
I like that one.
That's a good breakdown. I like that. Stream logged in, not sure. Oh, we got your question there, James. Hope you were able to catch us following back up with that one. Mr. Blue, Ingram or Cam, Travi?
I think he's actually answering that question.
Oh, I see. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't mind dropping Cam if you have Dak. Then
that was my thing. Like Dallas done with the bye. So I think we're rocking Dak the rest of the way, barring injury. So for me, I don't know what holding on to Cam really gets you other than a headache maybe 1 week if you're like, oh, should I start Cam this week? You know,
thinking about this one a little bit more, the upside of Cam Newton is not that of the upside of Dak Prescott. The floor of Cam Newton is Dak Prescott's better in every category. And Cam could have better games, but like, when are you going to start Cam Newton over Dak Prescott?
But it's also not about just who you're going to start. It's keeping that piece away from somebody else. So that's where it more so comes in, where it's like,
that's one strategy route.
Yeah. And then it's like, and that was also on the King Henry side for where I was thinking about it. Cause I'm like, And to Travis, like there is an outside chance that he could come back, but I don't think just, like we had like, are you going to start him week 1 of, which would be the championship week? If you have him, are you rolling him out there that week? And so for me, I just don't think he comes back. I really don't. So it's like, I would throw that on the waiver and burn somebody else's roster spot, hoping that person probably is not even going to make the finals, because they're holding on to a Derrick Henry, and chances are that they're not going to make it there. So even if he does return, like that's burning a roster spot on somebody else. I now free up the roster spot. But again, it depends on what kind of strategy you want to go with, because
I guess maybe you take a look.
I think there's merit in the taking a starting quarterback away from the rest of your league. I do think there's merit in that. My problem with this is, as it's speculation right now, there's championship winning upside if Derrick Henry were to come back for week 17 and be 70 or even 80% of himself to come back into that lineup. Now, again, Tennessee is in a weird spot because I think their arrow is pointing way down, but they're still the number 1 seed in the AFC. So a lot could be shook out by then. And so, do you think they want Henry back? Yeah, I think they're going to do everything in their power to try and get him back when they can. But again, to Johnny's point, we've seen conflicting reports. Some reports saying there's no way he's coming back then. Some saying there's an outside shot for that week 17. So I think that upside alone, for me, would get it done, especially having Dak and being confident in that.
The one I like the piece there about keeping a good ceiling play quarterback off the market for other league mates. I would say you can get a little bit more nuanced with this too. Just take a look at the rest of your league. Take a look at who's in the playoffs. Take a look at what their quarterbacking situation is. Maybe everybody who's geared up, maybe got a 6-team playoff and everybody's got a good quarterback. And it's like, hey, if you want to roster, if you want to go and roster Aaron Rodgers and Cam Newton, go for it. You can be that person to go ahead and keep both of them. Maybe it's the teams that are playing in the toilet bowl are the ones that have a quarterback need, and it's not going to affect you on that same way. So like, just always take a look at your league when you're making these decisions. When you're banking on WAB, take a look at what the rest of your league needs and how much WAB they have to spend. You might be able to everybody who would want this quarterback only has 6 WAB. I can just spend 7 and guarantee that I'm going to get him. There's ways to go ahead and take a look at the rest of your league to make some predictions on where people might end up going. Be something I'd always encourage doing, just regardless.
This article from thelines.com released 3 days ago said there's a belief that Henry will be back this season. Rappaport said the timeline, and it's tough to know because every individual surgery is different, every injury is different, but the timeline is about 6 to 10 weeks. 8 to 10 is probably the average, but if they really push it, 6 is possible. Derrick Henry is everything go perfect, and they need him to be back in order to be back by that 6. Here's what's the interesting part. Recovery time after Jones fracture surgery is 7 weeks or less, according to healthline.com. The site says people who undergo Jones fracture surgery may have to keep weight off the injured foot for up to 6 weeks. Given Rappaport's reporting and that timeline, fantasy football owners should certainly be checking back the stats in December. Here is the potential return date. A week 15 return against the Steelers would be 6 weeks from the injury. So that is Sunday, December 19th. That's week 15. On the longer side is week 18, which would be 9 weeks, which is what their average is. 8 to 9 weeks is week 18. You don't play in week 18. And that's Sunday, January. And Diana Rossini, who was on ESPN, she does all the reporting, is saying that they're optimistic that Henry will be back, quote unquote, in early January. So that would be week 17, week 18, Dolphins, Texans. And again, it all depends on where you want to gamble.
Might start before the season ends. And I mean, we saw Kevin Durant rush back to try to make a game that he probably shouldn't have. But these are athletes, and they all of a sudden, the recovery is going great. It's record time. It's coming back as they need a win, and it comes in. So it sounds like the reports are still conflicting. So keep a lookout for more information that comes. And we'll be there with you the entire ride.
My biggest thing with this is it's not a firm timeline. When they came out with it, it was the 6 to 10. They said that from the beginning, and they said there are variations of that timeline that are possible. And so for me, that's a hold in my mind, because there are outs for you to get Henry back in week 15, in week 16, in week 17. Those are all still possibilities here based on the timeline we've been given and based on what's going on. And so if that's possible for me to get a 20 to 30 carry game running back, who was the RB1 overall in the playoffs.
You think that they would do that, though? Coming off a foot injury.
Johnny, we've had these coaches, they don't care, dude. CMC
yeah, but they do. They're going.
No, they don't. Johnny, CMC came back last year after not hitting the IR and being hurt, and they gave him 30 touches. He's come back this year. They haven't scaled him up. They give him the
again,
20 to 25
you're
touches.
talking,
they don't care, dude.
No,
they don't care about running backs.
Hold on. But there is a difference between coming into a season and having a guy have no problems coming into a season and giving him 30 touches versus a guy coming off a foot injury right before a playoff push where a lot of people think that where their offense has been absolutely anemic without him, and they need to be in the playoffs and make seeding to be a splash team in the playoffs. So you're gonna risk that week 17 and week 18,
the main vein of their offense.
So you're gonna risk that week 17, 18 when you could have the playoffs locked
it's
up.
Not
by
a risk
then,
to them if he
getting him
back
in the
from the injury, Johnny. That's all I'm saying.
They wouldn't do that.
It's a possibility. It might not be likely, but it is a possibility. And so we need to keep staying up to date on the information that comes out. And we'll look into our crystal ball and try to make our predictions on what the coaching staff would do with a player in this kind of situation. But we'll also get more confirmation on decisions and things as it comes through. So make sure you're with us along with that, Rod, because we're going to be updating you and getting in some fiery debates about it along the way. Trust on that. Ms. Easy Daddy needs to know Stafford or Cam full point PPR. Matt Stafford going up against Green Bay Packers, Cam Newton coming in. What do you think? Johnny, any strong takes?
I'd probably go Stafford still. I'd still trust that over Cam.
I think so too. I'm just that floor from Cam is going to come. It always does. Stafford hasn't been great, but I like this matchup for him. Mr. Blue, Travie, do we like Cook versus San Francisco run defense?
Do you like scoring points in fantasy? Yeah, we like him. He's fine. I mean, this again, I like this stat. I know I've been saying it a lot, but Dalvin Cook stopped at the 1 5 times this year and then didn't score a touchdown after. Major positive regression could be coming for Dalvin Cook down the stretch here. So I like it.
Slim Reaper with a good update here. Tre'Davious White done. ACL tear. You hate to see that. Bills defense has been so good. Are they a little bit more susceptible, Johnny?
Absolutely. Tre'Davious White is one of the best corners in football, so he's been a lockdown corner. So, yeah, definitely concerning.
All right, Easy Daddy here. Pick 3, Travis. 2 running backs in a flex. Melvin Gordon, Cordero Patterson, Darrell Henderson, A.J. Dillon, Brandon Ayuk.
Ooh, there's some good options here. I'm taking Henderson and I'm taking Cordero Patterson if he's good to go. The flex would then be between Ayuk, Dillon, and Melvin Gordon. I would lean Ayuk if Aaron Jones is inactive, or I'm sorry, I would lean AJ Dillon if Aaron Jones is inactive. If Aaron Jones goes, I would go Ayuk.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I hear that. We got another big workload, Johnny. Cover Econ?
Could be, but you don't like the matchup at all against New England. Like, they've been shutting down people.
This was the guy I wanted to call as a sleeper. We got asked the sleeper question. It's just so hard to call this guy against Bill Belichick this week. It does not make sense to play.
Andre Silva, Foreman low end RB2 this week, Travis?
I think he's more like an RB3, low end flex. Really, at this point, I would be starting Hilliard of the 2, and I'd be trying to avoid starting Foreman if I could. They're heavy underdogs in this game. AJ Brown's now out, so they're going to have even more trouble moving the ball. And New England's defense has really, really been good over the last month.
Johnny, are you going to flex Goddard or Bateman in a half-point PPR? Andre Silva asks.
Probably going to go Goddard unless. If Brown is out, then I would play Bateman if Brown is out, but I think Brown will play. So I would go with Goddard in this situation.
Officially questionable on Marquis Brown. We'll be keeping an eye on that one. Travis Slim Reaper asks, choose Gallup and Knox, so need a flex this week. Big Pat the Muth, Bateman, or Unicorn Pitts?
I think you got to play Pitts, man. I think you have to continue to play Pitts as he's top 5 in a lot of usage metrics right now, and he just has only scored 1 touchdown. So to me, Pitts is a guy that at the back half of this year, especially if we get CPAT back, is really in a good spot to continue to soak up and then also get some touchdown positive regression on the outside.
Nice take. Slim Reaper breaking news. Justina Anderson just got word I'll be getting that Mixon jersey and Johnny's one most valuable jawline. We knew that last part. We're going to be announcing the winner of the autographed Joe Mixon jersey, which all of our $10 Patreon subscribers are automatically entered into the monthly signed jersey giveaway. We do it the first Monday Night Football game of the month. We do our live reaction show, and in the fourth quarter, we'll be getting that jersey drawn. You still have time all the way up until the fourth quarter of that Monday night game. Just log on to patreon.com, search for the Fantasy Whispers, and you got a shot to then enter that raffle automatically. And every month it's a new one. You automatically get entered into it. Really fun, especially then the extra content that comes your way, sports card raffles. It's a really cool community to be a part of. Encourage that.
Definitely.
Is Saquon even worth a start anymore? I got Eli Mitchell, Gaskins, and Antonio Gibson. I mean, Saquon's definitely worth a start, right, guys? Would you start him over any of these three this week?
I'm starting him over Gaskin.
Gaskin for sure. Yeah, I think that's the play. It gets close with Mitchell because of the finger. I do think there's some re-injury risk or like fumble risk with Mitchell. Like I'm not saying that there isn't a world where Mitchell, if he goes, isn't risky. Obviously, but I do think I'm starting Gibson over Saquon, and I'm starting both if I have the ability to.
Here, Slim Reaper wanted to just make sure that we got that Justina Anderson news. Oh, we got it, Slim. There's conflicting reports.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess with Slim, man. He manifested getting that Damian Harris jersey last month. So he's like, hey, it took me a while to be a patron, but now I'm racking up these jerseys. I know that's on his agenda here.
All right, we got Jonathan coming in. What's good, man? Thanks for joining the show. Is trading Kelsey for Kamara and AJ Brown a fair trade, Johnny?
If Kamara,
I think it's a fair deal based on what's going on with the two of them. They're both injury risk right now, but Kelsey's number one tight end. Obviously, we know that. I'd be interested to see, like, you're getting Kamara and AJ Brown? Are you in the playoffs? Are you firmly in the playoffs? Because if so, then I like that deal a lot more. If you need to win now, like, you've probably got to keep Kelsey.
I like that take on this one. Eric has another question here. Full point PPR flex spot: Javonte Williams, Devonta Smith, or Elijah Moore?
I think I'd go on Smith here. He's been hot lately.
I know. I would. Devonta Smith is pretty nice.
Yeah.
Number one option for his team. Doesn't have to worry about a guy in Zach Wilson coming in and potentially messing with what he's got going on. Look, even in a bad matchup the last couple of weeks, he gets it done because he's just been really, really good at separating right now.
Last question from you, Whisper Nation.
You don't like it, Johnny?
Good to have you. Gronk or Pitts? No. Stafford and Cam this week.
I'm going Gronk and Stafford. I'm going Gronk and Stafford.
Okay, Gronk and Stafford.
Yeah.
All right. Gentlemen, any other information, any other news that you want to share here with Whisper Nation? Great questions, guys, coming in. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. But anything to keep an eye out before we have the Sunday Live lineup show at 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time?
Saturday, a big IR day, as I said before. So tomorrow, a big IR day. We'll have official activations off of IR if so. That's something to monitor. And then, just enjoy the weekend. If you're with family, man, get out there and enjoy the weekend. Enjoy going out. I know there's a big weekend for the people in the industry, bartending, hospitality, things of that nature. Yeah. Remember to tip them as we get into these slower time of year. Please just be a little bit more generous with your money out there. They're trying to feed their family and get things done as well, man.
Great words. Well, on behalf of Johnny Game Time Hicks, Big Trevi, I am Austin Sear. We are the Fantasy Whispers. We are wishing you a very, very happy Thanksgiving weekend. Tip your waiters. Enjoy your family. Hug your kids. Tune in Sunday for the live lineup show. Love you all. And there's nothing you can do about it. We're out.
Peace.
Right here.
Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. If you still have a lot to say about fantasy football, maybe you want to give Johnny a little bit of crap for his take today, then go on over to our Discord channel and join the conversation there. Click the link in the description below. And if you still want more content, check out one of these videos.